There are just too many damn Airbnbs up in Joshua Tree.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
At least that's what San Bernardino County... Oh, wow, I hated that. But that's what San Bernardino County is saying. Welcome back to another episode of, I don't know what to call this YouTube channel. I am your host, Lex Isham. And on this episode of, I don't know what to call this YouTube channel, we are talking about new restrictions that Joshua Tree has placed on short-term rentals and Airbnbs. This is for all the investors out there that want to buy a house in Joshua Tree or are looking to build a house in Joshua Tree for Airbnb. Stay tuned because these regulations will directly affect you. First, we're going to talk about why Joshua Tree have implemented these regulations before we get into the actual regulations. And a large reason is because the gold rush of Airbnb. The median house before COVID in Joshua Tree was around $250,000. Now, the median house is about $400,000, which for the investor is phenomenal. House prices are rising. You build more equity in your home quicker. Everything's all good. However, for the locals, that is terrible. What is happening in Airbnb is investors are coming and pushing out the locals that are living there because it is no longer affordable to live in Joshua Tree. It is being engulfed with short-term rentals and Airbnbs. The second concern is the actual Joshua Trees in Joshua Tree. The town and the city is scared that with the increase of these homes, the new constructions, the Airbnbs, the landscape is being harmed. Now, Joshua Trees have actually just joined the Endangered Species Act. That means you are no longer allowed to cut down Joshua trees without a huge fine. Actually, you are not able to even build a house 40 feet to a Joshua Tree. The rules are pretty strict. They are finally cutting down on people building and destroying Joshua Trees. They want to preserve the thing that makes the whole city, which I completely agree with. No one should be cutting down Joshua Trees. They are a landmark. They are freaking beautiful. Now, a quick story about cutting down Joshua Trees. I just went to Joshua Tree to interview some general contractors, and one of the general contractors, Clint Stoker, he basically told me that a guy got fined $50,000 for cutting down 6 Joshua trees. $50,000. Hey, $50,000 for cutting down 6 trees. Don't do it. Hey, don't cut down trees. Now, between you and me, if you really, really look at it, it's just money. The town and the city wants more money. I think what has happened is the town basically was like, these investors are making a killing. They are making 100, 200x on their investments. They're profiting $100, $200, $300,000 a year, and we are seeing none of it. So we are increasing the regulations so that they get a cut. Just classic capitalism. And I'm pro-capitalism. So, you know, if Joshua Tree wants to do it, we're going to abide by their rules. So let's get into the actual regulations of what Joshua Tree has decided to do with Airbnbs and short-term rentals. The first one has to do with money and permitting and monitoring. Now, the original price to get a short-term rental permit was $270 with an $85 monitoring fee. Those prices have gone up exponentially. Now, the fees for short-term rentals in the city limits of Joshua Tree have increased to $965 to get a permit for short-term rentals with a $340 monitoring fee. Obviously, those prices have gone up a crazy amount. Now, the next regulation is a pretty big regulation and puts a time limit on investors. The next regulation is short-term rental houses can only make up 10% of the total house stock. That means out of all the houses in Joshua Tree, only 10% of them can be short-term rentals and will have short-term rental permits. This puts a limit on the number of permits that they are going to give out. That puts a time limit on starting Airbnb in Joshua Tree. That is very important for investors. The time starts now. The next couple are regarding specifically the actual stays / the short-term rentals themselves. The first one is Airbnb have now capped the number of guests to only 8 guests. Now, if you have a bigger house, you can get a special permit, which allows you to get more guests. However, for the normal house, you are now capped at only 8 maximum guests. The next one is basically they are enforcing you to have a property manager. All short-term rentals must have an owner or an agent be able to respond to any complaint within 15 minutes by the phone or 30 minutes in person. That is basically the city saying if you get a complaint, you must respond immediately. That takes us to the next one, which is a huge change. It is the violation fees. You can see that there is a monetary trend here that all the fees have increased drastically. So the violation fees have increased 10 times. They were originally first violation, $100, second violation, $200, third violation, $500. They have now 10x, not the Grant Cardone 10x, but 10xing in the wrong way. They are now $1,000 for the first violation, $2,000 for the second violation, and $5,000 for the third violation. Hey, don't get violations because you're going to be paying a lot of money. Do not violate their rules. Make sure you ask the city all of the rules so that you are not violating any of them and not get whopped with $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 fee. That would suck. The next two regulations are regarding light pollution, sound pollution. All new rentals must have sound monitoring hardware. That means basically hardware that tracks how much noise is being exerted in your short-term rental, which basically determines whether or not the people are throwing a party or not and being excessively noisy. The second one has to do with light. All outdoor lighting must be fully shielded. Now that is a crucial one that hits me right in the heart because the experience I wanted to do has to do with lights. So I'm going to have to figure a workaround that. However, stay tuned for my problem solving because that's what your boy's good at. So yeah, the light pollution and sound pollution are two new regulations that they put in. I actually agree with them. The whole aesthetic of the desert is to get away, is to have a very isolated, in nature type of experience. And when you have a lot of light pollution or noise pollution, it really takes away from the overall aesthetic of what people go there for. So I do agree with most of these new regulations. The last thing they have done is basically move the section of code for vacation rentals, which was originally in the development section, to the general section. That has basically allowed them to make changes to the code and the laws a lot quicker and to implement them quicker so that they can have more control over short-term rentals in Airbnb. So that is pretty much all you need to know about these new regulations that have just occurred. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me in the comments or via Instagram at What's Next Lex. Thank you so much for watching. And again, I hate to self-plug, but if you like this video, if you like the content I'm putting out, please subscribe, like this video. It helps me out with the algorithm and it allows me to get more than 4 views in each video. So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.